Call the meeting to order. Thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Does anyone have anything to declare? No, thank you. Approval or amendment of the meeting agenda. We have a draft motion. Be it resolved, the council approve the agenda of the regular meeting dated April 19, 2022 as presented. Any discussion of the motion? Mover? Matt? Seconder? Angela? All in favor? Carried. Approval of minutes. Be it resolved, the council approve the following minutes as presented. Committee of the Whole meeting, April 5th, 2022, and the emergency meeting of April 6th, 2022. We have a mover? Angela? Seconder? Pat? Discussion? All in favor? Carried. No business arising from the minutes. Inquiries from members of the general public? None on form. Delegations and presentations. We have one. Mr. Pryor.
Good evening, Council. Nice to see everybody again. I'm still concerned about the bylaw 2021-25. The concerns about it. I have given Stephen copies of some letters from a couple of tenants and a landlord. And we have several here that are curious on what's going to happen with this as well, because it affects them fairly deeply. I did get his email after the last meeting and from Stephen, and thank you, Stephen. It was quite nice to hear that the council wanted to take the time to review and discuss what this topic I had brought and consider the things I brought. He did say that he would like some time to do that to May 3rd. My one dilemma is that as a landlord, if I am going to give my notice to tenants, I have to give it 60 days from the first of the month. And you want this to be implemented, like I have until July 1st to be able to pay, or else be in, so anyway, what I'm asking is for, if you want me to the 3rd, I have no problem with that. Come back in 2 weeks to hear your decision. But I would also like the deadline to be moved to August the 1st rather than July 1st. So that I still have 60 full days from the time that I know that I'm gonna have to give my tenants their eviction notices, because I'll be selling the properties, because I'm not gonna go. I just find that there's too much control that the town is wanting to take over my properties. So I'm just asking if maybe we could do, if that is acceptable with the council, that since it's going to be into May before we find that, before you give me an answer as to whether you're going to abolish or take it back and rework it and not make everybody sign up until we get a new one that's worked out. In the letters, there's some different ideas as well. But all I'm asking right now is so that I can be within the guidelines of what the Ontario Landlord Tenant Act says, by the time I have to be in compliance with the bylaw, I have time to either, like, I'm not going to run short and boom, I have to, like, you understand what I'm saying with as far as having to give my notice to the tenants that they're going to be evicted. So if you're waiting till May 3rd to give me an answer, I would like that deadline to be in compliance moved to August 1st. Is there a possibility that you can give me a confirmation of that this evening?
Oh, I'll ask council. Normally, we would take that up in a committee of the whole, which would be 2 weeks following this meeting, and then make a decision at that time, at the next council meeting. But Steve, do you have any comments on that?
No, just as per the committee of the whole meeting that we realized that we were going to present a report to council for the next committee of the whole meeting addressing Mr. Farr's concerns.
Yeah. That would be the normal course of business, Rod. Would that be all right?
Not really, Doug, because what happens is you still got July 1st as the compliance date. Otherwise, I could be fined. And if you're taking it into May, then for me to give 60 days notice, like, I don't want to give notice if I don't have to. Are we going to amend this bylaw or drop it and try to refocus on what the original intent was and how you could actually make that work somehow? Not go after the good landlords that we have in this town and cost them money. This whole bylaw strayed away from the original intent of it, but I still have to give 60 days notice. So if I have to be in compliance by July 1st, I have to give my tenants their notice by May 1st. I don't have a problem with you waiting until May 3rd to give me an answer, or even May 15th. But I have to do it by the 1st of a month, because that's what the law requires of me as a landlord. So if we can say, okay, since we're going to do it May 3rd, we will extend the compliance date from July 1st to August 1st, so that the landlords can still be in compliance with the Ontario Landlord Tenant Act law, and give you guys the chance. I don't mind you guys taking time to discuss it. In fact, you need to, because I think there's a lot of issues that you might have surfaced now in discussion that you're going to say, okay, maybe we can change the wording of this, or maybe we can not try to micromanage them. Going to write one of my tenants' letters.
The deadline to comply is July 31st.
31st?
July 31st.
Okay, that's still in July. That's still in July though, Stephen. I have to give notice before the 1st. So, and I have to give them 60 days notice. So I would still be, by May 31st, I would still, if I basically are collecting when I get my rent on May the 1st, that's when I either have to give an eviction notice along with saying in 60 days you'll be out. Now, I can do that, but we have a landlord here that had a very small 1-bedroom apartment up on Earl Street. 250 applicants for a small 1-bedroom apartment. There's a housing crisis going on. We don't need this kind of things happening to upset landlords and make landlords sell their properties. I've talked to several others. Some are just saying they're not going to comply. Others are, but I can't do that. If you're saying, okay, if there's a chance I could be fined $750, like, and then I continue to go on and there's more fines, et cetera, like, we can't have this. We need to have, in this housing crisis, don't be doing things that are going to put people out on the street. Because that's what's going to happen. Because I'm not going to put myself, once I sign that thing saying I agree to this, I lose control of my houses. And not that Stephen's going to try to break me or anything, but I can't take that chance, guys. Matt, you wouldn't sign over the running of your business to somebody else either. If it was a matter of buying a business license, okay, I'll buy one just like Matthew bought one. But don't put all these other constrictions. It's not targeting the issue that you originally intended this bylaw to go after, which was cleaning the streets up. It's, and it is really quite close to discrimination when certain landowners can't be touched. We had a committee for how the place was supposed to look. What do you call it?
Property standards.
Property Standards Committee. and I know Lawrence was on it and a few other guys there. Is that not have enough power to be able to clean up? Like you're talking about most landlords, I think, and the new ones that are coming in are very concerned about how the shape of their property. Like, you're targeting the good landlords as well as maybe the bad ones, but why are you doing that? Like, rewrote it or come up with a different idea. That you're not having such control over people. Like I said last time, I have an insurance company that comes around and checks my properties, make sure everything's been done. That goes from handrails to fire alarms to everything. I don't need to pay for another fire inspection. From a person I'm having conflicts with over fire pits.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'm looking for an answer as to if you're going to stick with that date. I have no problem. Discuss it, find out what you can do, but I need an extra month for compliance. So basically, if the date is July 31st, make it August 31st. That people have to be in compliance with.
August 31st or August 1st?
Well, I would go with just bringing it into August. That's all that matters. Because if as soon as I get your decision on May 3rd, I'll know what I have to do. So you can just move it one extra day and say, okay, as of August 1st, you have to be in compliance.
Question for you.
Yes.
You did say you understand why we were putting this bylaw into place. Now, how
Not really, Pat.
to make sure that we can find the landlords that aren't living up to what the code is for safe housing and stuff like that. So can you think of another way how we could find them legally? This is the thing we've got to identify. How can we do it otherwise? Like I know your places, are well kept up and everything.
That's because I got some good tenants that
That's right.
look after their places.
Yeah.
A lot has to do with how well you pick your tenants.
That's right, yeah. But we have to have some legal means to go after the others.
Well,
We're not gonna be going after you because
but
because you don't have infractions like those. So,
yes, Pat, but the minute I sign that paper means that I am subject to those disciplinary actions if somebody finds it, if something happens. And if I have a roof that leaks and I plan on re-shingling it later this year, but then all of a sudden I'm told I have to fix that roof now, and then I would have to go borrow the money to do it, get it done now. Hopefully, like as a business person, I try to weigh everything out in accordance with what comes in. I really don't make much off my houses, but I invest everything that I get back into them to try to fix Cobalt up and make the houses better for tenants and for in the community. And the offshoot is that my house gets more valuable and I benefit in the long run, but not on a day-by-day basis. A lot of tenants, I know there's landlords that don't really care a lot, but if you're a landlord that doesn't care, your house won't get rented. Like people, and
Unless you have 250 applicants for one place.
well,
That's
this
the
is
problem.
thing. And I remember when I had a house for rent and I stopped at 25 on the first hour and a half of people that had called, and that was over a year ago. And so I know that the housing shortage, if these people, like I said, I understand what maybe your motive was, but you're just trying to get a bit too much involved with my business, which.
I think we're good there, Rod. We understand your point. Can I put it to, yes, Matt?
I just have question for Mr. Pryor.
Oh, all right.
Earlier, you said you had an insurance company go through and inspect your properties. How often is that?
Usually every 2 years.
Every 2 years?
Yeah.
And you get a report from the insurance company?
No, I get my insurance going for another 2 years.
But the insurance company
Well,
obviously
they
deems it.
have said, she goes back, and after she goes through, she comes back and she says, you need to put this handrail on, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And I have 30 days to be in compliance.
Okay, and without, I don't want to take up too much time, but what parts of this bylaw are you not in favor of? We have an appeal process, so if somebody came to you and said, you know, that your tenant has said the roof is unsafe, when are you going to get that done? You said later in the year.
Well,
I mean, it's not a hard, fast decision of council or the town clerk to say you must. There is an appeal process built into the bylaw.
yeah, hearings before the town clerk, so say I went and had a hearing and everything else, the decision of the town clerk is final. So it doesn't matter what I say, I am subject to his approval or disapproval.
During an appeal process, yes.
Well, if I was appealing the decision, like, okay, so right there. If he's got his heels dug in, it doesn't matter what I say, his decision is final.
But if a tenant comes to
And
town.
not that Stephen, but you know what? I see this council and I see this could all change in October. And then who am I dealing with?
It very well could, but.
And then who am I dealing with, Mac? Like, I know you and I talked to you
Yeah.
many times, and I don't think that you've intended to try to make it hard on good landlords.
It's not intended to make it hard on good landlords, but it has to be in a non-discriminatory manner. It has an appeal process built into it, and it's not a hard, fast, this is the decision of council, or this is the decision of the town clerk, and it's final. The appeal process is there for a reason, and the bylaw has been vetted by the AG. It's not like we came up with this and just put it forth and said, hey, this is what we're going to do.
But now, Matthew, I talked to our MPP a week and a half ago.
Mhm.
And he had mentioned that you had had a discussion with him when you first started working on that bylaw. And so he knew about what I was talking about. He knew what I was talking about. He said, sometimes you start off with one direction that you're trying to accomplish a certain thing. And I know what you were trying to accomplish. We'd had several discussions on it, that we wanted to clean the town up, so make it a safe place so that our kids, the grandkids, could run around town and not be worried about picking up used needles on the streets and things like this. But somewhere along the line, as it was told to me, sometimes you run into brick walls that you can't move when you're trying to put things together. Now, in my aspect, once you found that you weren't able to target the areas that you wanted to target, why was it not just put aside until you figured out some way you could hit those target areas? I know you are still going after DSAP to separate their clients from the seniors in the seniors homes. And I applaud the council for doing that. Those seniors don't need these people running around through their house, their home, which they are right now. But when you couldn't do it, I don't know how you changed your whole point of view from going after them to going after other landlords.
That's not going after, it's not targeted. So it is a bylaw to ensure the safety of the dwellings within the town of Cobalt, because we found a lot of the deadbeat landlords that we were having issues with would not respond. And we didn't have a tool in place to look after that. And we can't say this bylaw only targets out of town landlords, because that would be discriminatory. This bylaw looks after all landlords within the town of Cobalt. And it's not to make it more difficult on you specifically to run your business or rent your homes. It's meant as a control to ensure that people live up to the standard that people like you have set. It's not a witch hunt, and it shouldn't be framed that way. It's a bylaw that's very similar to many throughout the province of Ontario and across the country to deal with matters like this. It's not something that we just arbitrarily came up with in an effort to try and make it difficult for people in town to rent their properties. And all I'm looking for is input from you to tell me what portion of this bylaw is the area that we need to discuss that is the tipping point for you to not look at this and understand that it's a tool that's supposed to make our town safer, both for tenants and for the general public, because we know we have a number of buildings, a couple downtown, that when they became dilapidated, they were rented out at a bargain basement price, and it brought all the wrong people to town because it just wasn't up to code. It wasn't safe for anyone to walk in and say, I want to live here. So we were attracting the wrong people because the property wasn't kept up. So what part of the bylaw is the concern? So we have a starting point for the discussions moving forward.
Who brought those people in?
It doesn't matter who brought the people
No, it
in.
does. Because when there's no place to fill them into the other places, DSAB sends them to the landlords, the private landlords, and asks them to take people in.
But that's not what we're discussing here. We're discussing the bylaw and the parts within it that
Well,
we need to look at that are the concern today, so we can have, again, a starting point. So
If
we
you
can
would like me to buy a license to operate a business in town, then fine. And I will buy a license, the same as you have a license, the same as Gary at the Silver Cafe has a license, the same, as Wayne Garage has a license. Sell me a license, and that's all you need to do. I have a license to operate.
That doesn't address the issue. The issue was unsafe.
Well, I don't want
Unsafe.
I don't want anybody else deciding, besides my insurance company, and myself, which I keep a close eye on.
But if the insurance company is already doing it for you, then what's the concern here?
Because I don't know who's gonna be coming into the house. And as I said, I have a fire chief right now that I have disputes over a fire pit. He comes into my house, he's gonna find something.
I don't think personal biases are going to come into play.
No,
And I
they're not thinking realistic.
I can certainly appreciate your concern, but this bylaw obviously has issues within it that you're concerned about. So what are those
A lot of
issues so
rules
we
and
can address?
regulations. You're micromanaging my business.
This isn't micromanaging your business. This is to provide safe, habitable homes for people within the town of Cobalt, and to do so in a manner that's consistent with other municipalities within the province as well as across the country. This isn't something that we came up with on our own. And again, this is something that we have vetted. And all I'm asking for is just the areas that you have concern with.
Simmonsburg and Lake and Lister don't have anything like this at all.
But which areas of this bylaw do you have concerns with?
I have concerns with all of it. With all of it. I want this thrown out and come back with something that targets the original plan of what this bylaw was supposed to go after. The safety of our children and the seniors in this town.
And this was the non-discriminatory way that we could do
Well,
that.
it doesn't work. It's not good. It's not good. It's gonna put people out on the street, and the real estate, now that if this comes in and this gets held, I talked to 2 realtors already that said, now that, if that goes through, any potential investors in this town of buildings will have to be fully disclosed that this is the bylaw, and you will have to abide by it. And believe me, people that are investors will, as one of the realtors said to me, the prices of the buildings in Cobalt is almost matched that of north of Worcester and Hillbury. And what will happen is that the investors will look there where you're not being under the thumb of the council instead of here. So it's going to affect, according to the realtors, and those are the heads of the real estate companies, they said it will make an effect on buyers.
It will.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out that even if you get a business license, you're required to abide by a whole set of rules, just like we're doing with this bylaw for rental units. You have to have a safe environment for your clients to come into. You're bound by the fire code. You're bound by the building code because you have public in your building. So there's still a set of rules even for a business license. This is no different, but it's a business license for landlords.
Well, is it the same price as a business license for a shoe store?
I honestly can't tell you that.
You can't or you won't?
I can't. I don't know what the cost of business
You
licenses
don't know what a
are.
business license costs? Do we have anybody that does? No.
That's besides the point. You're getting off track, Rod. You're saying that business licenses don't do this. Well, they do the same thing, but just in a different
I don't
area.
think so. I had a
And
business
if you're,
license before and I
hang on,
don't think
can I
they do.
finish?
Uh,
And if you're
yes.
meeting the code already through your insurance company, there should be no concern for you. Nobody's looking to
Well, there should
slam
be
the
no
hammer
concern for
down
you
on
either.
anybody.
There should be no concern with my buildings for you. If
Okay,
my,
but we
as long as I have
can't-
insurance,
We can't exempt you where that's discrimination. It has to apply across the board.
well, then I would say scrap the whole thing and come back with something. It's not about going after the landlords. Go after the problem people.
We cannot
We can't do
discriminate.
that. It's discrimination.
I don't mean the problem landlords, I mean the problem people. Go back to get an idea of something that's gonna take those meth dealers off the street. And the thieves that are going into people's properties in broad daylight, stealing ATVs and scooters and from people that are handicapped. Like, this ain't gonna, this didn't work, guys, I'm sorry to tell you.
You've got off track. This isn't
Okay,
to target
well,
the people.
Angela-
This is to provide safe housing. It's the housing.
Yeah, if
That's
this
the
goes
issue.
through, Burner kids, them and their kids will all be looking for a place to live when there's 100 and 250 people lined up for a one-bedroom apartment. So that will be on your heads. I got it.
I want that cited. Did you know that?
Okay, the question was, is council willing to advance that date by 1 day, to August 1st?
You want us to advance by 1 day or by 1 month and a
Well,
day?
August 1st would get them around the corner. That would give us time to review this in a committee of the whole meeting, go back to them and confirm the answer, and see where it goes from there.
Without knowing the specifics within the bylaw, it's difficult to even have a starting point to discuss this. And repealing a bylaw that's been in place for almost a year with notice to the public that we were discussing such a bylaw back in June, or starting last April, worries me a great deal. So advancing the date, I leave it to my colleagues.
I don't see it's gonna change the outcome, to be honest.
No, but sometimes I think it's important that we be seen to listen and
Yeah.
respond.
Like I would even say, the bylaw's supposed to come into effect July 31st. Yeah. We will be having more discussions, so let's give us some more time and advance it a month, August 31st. That's what he asked, was if we could advance it, to August 31st, and I'd be quite willing to do that, to give us more time to take a look at the details and maybe see, like I've been happy with what I've read in the bylaw, but yes, let's have another good look at it just to make sure as a council that we're all content with it, because we know what it's supposed to do, and we know it cannot solve all of our problems. But if it can solve a few of them, we're not going after good landlords. Like he's saying, he gets his inspections and everything, well, then that's fine. We wouldn't even be talking to him. So
And I think
it's gonna give us a chance to solve a few problems. It will not solve all the problems, but unfortunately, we can't solve all of them. We don't have the legal ability to, but we have to do the little bit we can.
Can I touch base with Joe? Joe, did you have a comment?
He did text me.
I second Pat's motion.
So we have a mover to August 31st.
August 31st. Yeah.
Extend date to August 31st.
Mhm.
Moved by Pat, seconded by Joe.
Mhm.
Any further discussion?
I just want, we can legally change the effective date of a bylaw without repealing the bylaw?
Probably not, but
That was, your worship, sorry.
That's
That was my
concern.
point. That was my
Yeah.
concern. We can't repeal a bylaw with an actionable date within it. Or we can, but then we're pulling it. There's an actionable date within the bylaw and it's
Yeah.
passed. It's not a bylaw
We asked
discussion.
John?
oh, John, yes, inputs.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. You wouldn't be repealing the bylaw. What you would be doing is putting off the implementation of the bylaw. That's what was happening for July 31st. If you want the implementation bylaw put off to August 31st, that's fine. The direction to staff was to bring a report to the next committee of the whole meeting. That'll be done. And difficult to address questions that we're not quite sure what they are, but we will provide a report to council at the regular committee of the whole meeting. And if I don't see any problem with the resolution to extend the implementation date to the August 31st.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion? Okay, call for the vote. All in favor? 2, 3, 4. Carried. Business arising from delegations and presentations? None. Items for council direction. 9.1, vacant council seat. We have a resolution, be it resolved, that council declare the seat vacant left by the passing of Councillor Giovanni. The seat is to be filled by appointment as required by the Municipal Elections Act. Public notice to be provided to solicit interested individual applications. Individuals will be asked to submit in writing their desire to be appointed and will be offered an opportunity to present themselves at the committee of the whole meeting scheduled for May 3rd, 2022. Could I have a mover? Matt? Seconded by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Nine point 2, Boreal Medieval Forest Village, a TMAG resolution. Be it resolved, the council supports the Corporation of the Township of Armstrong's resolution number 2022-045 to the Honorable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, requesting he immediately enact a minister's zoning order under the Planning Act of each of the proposed Boreal Forest Medieval Village developments. We have a mover? Angela, seconder? Pat? Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Our fire department, 9.3. Be it resolved, the council approve the appointment of Grant Noble, Morgan Scalise, and Bryce Evans to the Cobalt Fire Department. We have a mover? Joe? Seconder? Pat? Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Nine point 4, Ministry of the Environment. We received an update on the director's order. Any comments, discussion on that? No. 9.5, Jim Diamond, Municipal Planner, first draft zone bylaw update and supporting documents.
I was reading through, all the document that Jim sent, And I think a good suggestion would be that, we do another Zoom meeting with him to go through everything in detail. There's a lot in there. And then we'd have the maps up on the big screen to take a look at and considerations, because there's a lot of sort of residential zoning changes here and there. And I think that's something else we need a really good, solid discussion with, so that we fully understand all the different changes and agree with the implementations. I think all those changes are what I read, and the parts I understood sounded really good, but I'd like to have a good, thorough discussion with them too. And then we can move it on and get our planning all done.
Angela?
I agree with Pat. I think we need to have a discussion with Jim about some of it and go over it, because I was doing some of the math on what the setbacks and the easements were, and the math wasn't quite working for me with some of our lot sizes in town.
Right.
Because the way it reads right now, unless I'm reading it wrong, and that very well could be, that's why the discussion. I don't think I could even put a shed in my backyard for my snow blower at this point, going by that.
Right.
In the town?
Because it's gotta be so far from the house and so far from the property line, unless I'm gonna put a 4-inch shed in, I don't think I have any space like that.
Yeah, I had questions about environmental protection zones and that sort of thing as well, so.
So I think a good solid discussion with Jim would be very
You want a
worthwhile.
motion to invite the group in for a
For presentation.
Zoom meeting is fine with everybody? And
More than that.
Just another point, thinking back many, many years ago, did all the properties down in that end of town get rechecked, because there was a lot of boundary problems and stuff like that? When some of the work was done, I remember there were some people, like, they were buying sort of part of a lot on one side and then having to sell part of their lot to the next guy, so that their house and everything actually stood on their legal property. There was some real, and that was just problems with, the haphazard way that we grew early in the century, and then remapping, and things didn't quite go. So I think that's something that we should just check and make sure that everyone's property, has proper property boundaries and everything now. And this is a good time to make sure that all those little details are done. And then maybe she could put up a shed.
yes, Angela.
I know when I bought my house, it's up to you to actually have your survey done. And then you buy title insurance if in the case of there's any issues. And I was advised to buy title insurance because the boundaries are a little iffy in Cobalt in some places. So I don't think that as our zoning bylaw that we can do that. I think that's up to an individual homeowner to do that, was my understanding from the lawyer when I went to sign my papers. Just throwing that out there.
It was only, those changes were only happening when a house was sold.
Yeah.
And then the people on either side were going home. Yeah, there was quite a mess there for a while. So I was wondering, I think that's something we should check and make sure that all our property boundaries that we're showing on a map are the actual boundaries,
I don't know that that's in the town scope, that's all I'm saying. You can ask Jim that question.
Not sure either, but I did the same thing when I bought a house and I found out my driveway on my side of the fence was in fact his property. It's very distressing.
It was the first property that I purchased in my life where I actually had mandatory title insurance. The lawyer wouldn't let us go without it because it was in this town. And in the words of the lawyer, it's a town that pretty much wasn't intended to remain a town. It was the mining town put up quick. And the fact that it's still standing is a testament to the town itself, but it is a reason we have that title insurance, because there are 4 or 5 different plans in place that show different property lines. So it's definitely a question for Jim for clarification.
So does that help them? Maybe get them invited in?
Yeah, I will request Jim Allen to talk to council.
Super.
Presentation.
Oh, be it resolved, the council accept the items for council direction and information as presented. Mover? Pat, and seconder Ange? Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Bylaws? None. General business, schedule of accounts. Be it resolved, the council receives the following schedules as presented. Schedule number 2022-06 in the amount of $155,345.71. And schedule number 2022-07 in the amount of $133,679.76. Do I have a mover? Pat, seconder, Matt. And any discussion? All in favor? Carried. No motions with prior notice. Mayor's report. He hasn't called me. I don't know what it's like in Florida, but I hope he's doing well. No notice. Councilor updates. Anybody have anything?
I was just wondering, next meeting, are we gonna discuss this in the wetlands?
What is that that you're holding up?
The director's order?
Yes.
That could be on the next council?
Yes, I think we took that in for information tonight.
Okay.
And we can discuss it
Good job.
in the committee of the whole. Yes, Angela.
I'd like to ask that we do a review of our business licensing bylaw and see if we can complete that. And I'd also like to review the animal control bylaw, if we can put that on some future agendas, please. I think our animal control bylaw is antiquated and needs to be updated.
Steve. Okay. Council question and answers, anybody? No? We're now going to move into a closed session. Be it resolved, the council convene in closed section as per section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, in order to address a matter pertaining to subsection 2D, labor relations or employee relations, and 2B, personal matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Do we have a mover? Matt? Seconder? Joe? Any discussion? All in favor? And carried. Thank you. Business arising from closed session. I think you've got all the directions and we're good.
Yes, Your Worship.
Adjournment. Be it resolved that the regular meeting of council be adjourned at 9:12 p.m. Moved by Angela, seconded by, oh, I'll make it Matt this time. just yes.
Hey, I like that.
Oh, yeah, well, it's my favorite motion, you know. So
Can't first all the time.
Discussion, all in favor? Meeting adjourned.